The silence of deep space enveloped Commander Dominic Reeves's salvage vessel, the Horizont, as it drifted toward the derelict ship. Through the viewport, the abandoned craft resembled a massive skeletal hand reaching into the void, its hull scarred by micrometeorite impacts and what looked suspiciously like weapons fire. "Proximity alert. Target vessel within docking range," announced KIRA, the ship's AI. Dominic ran his hand through his dark, disheveled hair. 6 months solo in the Outer Rim had left him talking to KIRA more than was probably healthy, but salvage missions paid well, especially unauthorized ones in restricted space. "Scan for life signs," Dominic commanded, strapping on his exosuit. Negative organic signatures detected. However, there is an unusual energy reading in the central chamber that does not match known patterns. Dominic smiled. Unknown energy patterns meant unknown tech. Unknown tech meant credits, lots of them. "Prepare docking sequence, and keep the engines hot just in case." The airlock hissed as it connected to the derelict vessel. Dominic activated his helmet lights and stepped into the darkness. The air was stale but breathable, surprising for a ship that appeared abandoned for years. His boots clanked against the metal flooring as he made his way through winding corridors, following KIRA's directions toward the energy signature. The central chamber doors were sealed, but yielded to his portable bypass unit. As they slid open, emergency lights flickered to life, revealing a laboratory filled with equipment unlike anything he'd encountered in his 15 years of space travel. "KIRA, are you seeing this?" Dominic whispered, his breath fogging his visor. "Affirmative, technology classification, unknown, origin, non-human, recommendation, extreme caution." In the center of the room stood 7 cylindrical pods, 6 broken and empty. The 7th, still intact, pulsed with soft blue light. Dominic approached cautiously, wiping condensation from its transparent surface. His heart nearly stopped. Inside floated a woman, or something that resembled one. Her skin was pale with a subtle iridescence that shifted colors with her slow breathing. Instead of hair, delicate tendrils that resembled fiber optic filaments cascaded around her face, glowing faintly. Where human ears would be, she had what looked like small, intricate fins. "KIRA, I've found someone alive." "Commander, protocol dictates." "Protocol be damned, there's a survivor." Despite KIRA's protests, Dominic accessed the pod's control panel. After several attempts, the cylinder hissed open, releasing a cloud of cryogenic vapor. The woman didn't stir as the suspension fluid drained away. Making a decision that would forever alter his life, Dominic carefully lifted her from the pod. She was lighter than she appeared, her skin cool to the touch. She wore a form-fitting garment that seemed to be made of the same material as the pod's interior. "KIRA, prepare the medical bay." "Commander, bringing an unknown alien aboard violates at least 17 regulations." "Note my objection in the log," Dominic said, carrying the unconscious woman carefully toward the airlock. "And run a full bioscan. I want to know what she is and how to help her." As he reached the threshold between ships, the woman's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that swirled with galaxies of violet and gold. For one breathless moment, they locked gazes. Then the alarm klaxons began to wail. "Intruder alert," KIRA announced dispassionately. "Defense protocols engaged." Dominic cursed as emergency barriers began to drop. He lunged forward, barely clearing the airlock with his mysterious cargo before it sealed behind them. The woman in his arms trembled as her eyes darted around the unfamiliar environment. Then she looked back at Dominic, her expression unreadable but somehow vulnerable. "You're safe," he said, knowing she couldn't understand him, but hopping his tone conveyed his meaning. "I'm not going to hurt you." For reasons he couldn't explain, Dominic felt an inexplicable connection to this strange being from the stars. Little did he know that their destinies had become irrevocably intertwined, setting them on a course through danger, discovery, and a love that would transcend the boundaries of their different worlds. The medical bay of the Horizont hummed with activity as Dominic watched the alien woman lying motionless on the examination table. KIRA had run every scan in her database, concluding that while humanoid, the stranger's biology contained elements never before documented. "She appears stable, Commander," KIRA reported. "However, her neural patterns are unusual. They suggest a form of consciousness unlike human parameters. Dominic leaned closer, studying her face. Those luminous tendrils that replaced hair seemed to pulse with their own rhythm, like a heartbeat made of light. Do we have any idea what language she might speak? Negative. Linguistic database contains no matching patterns. 2 days passed with Dominic rarely leaving the medical bay. He'd begun talking to the unconscious woman, explaining where she was, how he'd found her. It seemed foolish, but the solitude of space had made him grasp at any form of connection, even one-sided. On the 3rd day, as he dozed in the chair beside her, her eyes snapped open. Dominic startled awake to find those galaxy-filled eyes fixed on him. She sat upright, tense and alert, backing away until she hit the wall. "It's okay," he said softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "You're safe." The tendrils around her head flared brighter, and suddenly Dominic felt a strange pressure inside his mind, like fingers gently sifting through his thoughts. "What though?" he gasped, clutching his head. "Do not fear, I learn your language this way." The voice wasn't audible. It resonated directly within his consciousness. "You're telepathic?" Dominic asked, astounded. The woman tilted her head. "Yes, my people, Astrians, communicate through thought. I am Nerissa." Her mental voice grew stronger with each passing moment. "You saved me. I found you in a stasis pod on an abandoned ship. I'm Dominic Reeves." Nerissa slid cautiously from the table, moving with an ethereal grace that made her seem almost weightless. The others. "There were empty pods. You were the only one alive." Her face contorted with grief, tendrils dimming to a dull glow. "Then I am the last." Over the next few days, as they traversed the emptiness of space, Nerissa gradually revealed her story. Her world had been destroyed by a race called the Vex, who coveted her people's ability to manipulate cosmic energy and neural pathways. She'd been part of a small group of refugees, but their ship had been attacked. The last thing she remembered was her fellow survivors placing her in stasis before they were boarded. One evening, as they shared a meal in the ship's small galley, their hands accidentally brushed. The contact sent an electric sensation coursing through Dominic, and Nerissa's tendrils brightened dramatically. "Sorry," he said, pulling back quickly. "Do not be." Her mental voice was softer now. "My kind experiences emotions and sensations more intensely than humans, when we touch." She hesitantly extended her hand, placing it over his. The connection bloomed instantly, a warm, intimate sensation of their consciousness brushing against each other. Dominic could feel her curiosity, her growing trust, and something else, something deeper taking root. "That's incredible," he whispered. "It is the beginning of understanding." She smiled, a human gesture she'd learned from him. "Among my people, this is how bonds form." Their eyes met across the table, and Dominic felt something shifting between them, a connection forming that transcended species and origin. Her fingertips traced patterns on his palm, each touch sparking tiny flares of light beneath her skin. As the horizon sailed silently through the void, they remained like that for hours, learning each other through touch and thought, the space between their different worlds growing smaller by the moment. The proximity alarm tore through the peaceful silence of the horizon. "Unidentified vessel approaching, Commander," KIRA announced. "Matching trajectory with ours, appears to be armed." Dominic rushed to the bridge, Nerissa closed behind. Through the viewport, a sleek predatory ship gained on them, its design unlike any human vessel. "Vex," Nerissa's mental voice was tight with fear. "They found me." "How? We're in the middle of nowhere." "My energy signature. They track it across space." A incoming transmission crackled through the speakers. A harsh, guttural voice demanded, "Surrender the Astrian female. She is claimed property of the Vex Imperium." Dominic's jaw clenched. KIRA plot an evasive course through the Talaris asteroid field, maximum thrust. As the horizon surged forward, the pursuing ship opened fire. The vessel shuddered under the impact. "Shields at 82%, KIRA reported. They plunged into the asteroid field, massive rocks spinning around them. Dominic's hands flew across the controls, guiding them through the chaotic dance of celestial bodies, while the Vex ship followed relentlessly. "We need somewhere to hide," Dominic muttered. "Somewhere they can't detect you." Nerissa's tendrils pulsed with concentration. "I can dampen my signature temporarily, but it requires tremendous energy." Do it, I'll find us a place to lay low. He spotted a massive asteroid with a deep fissure. Guiding the ship inside, he powered down all non-essential systems. Nerissa sat cross-legged on the floor, her entire body beginning to glow. It will drain me, she warned, her mental voice already weakening. I've got you, Dominic promised, kneeling beside her. Just hold on. Hours passed as they drifted in the darkness of the asteroid's shelter. The Vex ship prowled outside, scanning. Nerissa trembled with exertion, her light dimming. Instinctively, Dominic reached out, pulling her into his arms. The moment their bodies connected, something extraordinary happened. Energy flowed between them, his warmth seemed to strengthen her while her light pulsed through his veins. Their faces were inches apart, breath mingling. You're sustaining me, she whispered in his mind. Our life energies are aligning. Is that even possible? Dominic asked, his voice hoarse. Rare, but yes. Among my people it's called the confluence, a perfect resonance between souls. Their lips met tentatively at first, then with growing certainty. Lightning seemed to spark between them, actual visible currents of energy flowing over their skin. Nerissa's tendrils wrapped around them both, creating a cocoon of luminescence. Clothing fell away as they explored each other with wonder. Her skin was smooth like silk, but subtly textured with patterns that glowed brighter at his touch. Every caress shared not just physical sensation, but emotional resonance. Desire, tenderness, and growing connection cascading between them in waves. Their joining was both physical and psychic, their minds merging as completely as their bodies, creating a feedback loop of pleasure and emotion that transcended ordinary experience. As they moved together in the darkness of space, stars seemed to burst behind Dominic's eyes. Whether from the intensity of their connection or Nerissa's influence, he couldn't tell. When it ended, they lay entwined, her light creating patterns across their skin. The pursuing ship had moved on, unable to detect them. That was, Dominic struggled for words. The beginning, Nerissa completed, her mental voice rich with emotion, but not of something simple. She told him that the confluence changed them both permanently. Their energies would always be linked now. In saving her, he had bound himself to her in ways he couldn't yet understand. Dominic brushed a strand of luminous tendril from her face. I don't regret it. As they drifted in the shelter of the asteroid, both knew they had crossed a point of no return. The outpost of Nova Refuge clung to a small moon orbiting a gas giant, a place of smugglers, outcasts, and those who preferred to remain forgotten. Dominic had contacts here from his military days, before he'd chosen the solitary life of a salvager. They docked the Horizont at an inconspicuous berth. Nerissa wore a hooded cloak that concealed her luminous features as they moved through the crowded streets. Even disguised, she drew curious glances. Her fluid grace and the subtle glow that escaped her hood marked her as something other. Dominic led her to a nondescript building at the edge of the settlement. His old friend, Terk, a burly ex-soldier turned barkeep, greeted them with suspicion that melted into shock when Dominic revealed who and what Nerissa was. You've always found trouble, Reeves, Terk muttered, but this is impressive even for you. He offered them a small apartment above his establishment, private, secure, and most importantly, shielded from scanning technology. For the first time since Dominic had found her, they had a moment to breathe, to simply exist together. The apartment was Spartan but clean, with a single bedroom and a window overlooking the swirling storms of the gas giant. As night fell, Nerissa stood by that window, her hood lowered, tendrils flowing freely and reflecting the planet's colors. I've endangered you, she said aloud, having practiced human speech during their journey. Her voice had a melodic, otherworldly quality. The Vex will never stop hunting me. Dominic crossed the room, standing behind her. Since their encounter in the asteroid field, their connection had deepened. He could sense her emotions even without direct contact, worry, guilt, and beneath it all, a fierce protectiveness toward him. I made my choice, he said, his hands settling on her shoulders, and I'd make it again. She turned to face him, her luminous eyes searching his. You had a life before me, a path. A lonely one, he admitted. 6 months in deep space with only an AI for company. That was my life, Nerissa, until you. Her hand rose to touch his face, and immediately their connection blossomed, thoughts and feelings flowing between them. He felt her fear of loss, having watched her entire civilization perish. She felt his years of isolation, self-imposed after military service that left him disillusioned. "I don't want to lose you too," she whispered as he leaned down to kiss her. Their lovemaking that night was slower, more deliberate than their first passionate union. They explored each other with the luxury of time and safety, discovering how their different physiologies responded to touch and intimacy. Her skin emitted a soft glow that intensified with her pleasure, bathing the room in ethereal light that pulsed in rhythm with their movements. Their mental connection deepened with each encounter. Dominic began to perceive the world as she did, seeing energy patterns, feeling the cosmic threads that connected all living things. She, in turn, became more attuned to human emotions, the complex layers of feeling that her more telepathic species expressed differently. Days stretched into weeks at Nova Refuge. They ventured out cautiously, Nerissa always disguised but gradually experiencing the diversity of the outpost's inhabitants. Her wonder at simple things, music, different foods, the varied species that frequented Terk's establishment, reminded Dominic how to see the universe with fresh eyes. At night, wrapped in each other's arms, they shared their pasts through memory and thought. He showed her Earth's oceans and forests. She revealed the crystalline cities of her lost homeworld. Their bodies and minds entwined so completely that sometimes it became difficult to remember where one ended and the other began. But even in this haven, reality intruded. News reached them of Vex ships patrolling nearby systems, methodically searching. Their time was running out. The Vex found them at dawn. 3 warships descended on Nova Refuge, their weapons already primed. The settlement's meager defenses stood no chance. Dominic and Nerissa awoke to the sound of explosions and Terk pounding on their door. "They're here," he gasped, "and they've brought an army." They fled toward the horizon, but streets that had once been filled with traders and smugglers now swarmed with Vex soldiers, hulking figures in biomechanical armor. At the spaceport, they found themselves cornered, backs against the sealed airlock of Dominic's ship. The Vex commander stepped forward, a towering figure whose armor seemed fused with his gray, leathery skin. His eyes were cybernetic implants that whirred as they focused. "The Astrian female," he growled. "Surrender her, human, and you may live." Dominic stood protectively in front of Nerissa. "What do you want with her?" "Her genetic material. The Astrian ability to manipulate cosmic energy through neural pathways will make our warriors unstoppable." The commander's face twisted into what might have been a smile. "We destroyed her world to harvest this power. We won't be denied the last specimen." Nerissa stepped forward, her hood falling back, tendrils flaring with light. "I am not a specimen," she said, her voice resonating with power, "and you have taken enough from my people." She reached for Dominic's hand, and the moment their fingers intertwined, energy surged between them. The confluence they had formed, the permanent bond of their union, created something new. Power flowed from him into her, human vitality amplifying Astrian abilities. Nerissa's entire body blazed with light. She raised her free hand, and a shockwave of pure energy erupted outward, sending the Vex soldiers flying backward. The commander stumbled but remained standing, raising his weapon. "Now KIRA," Dominic shouted. The Horizont's defense systems, which he'd remotely activated, came to life. Precision fire struck the commander, disintegrating his weapon. Meanwhile, Nerissa focused her amplified power, creating a barrier of energy around them as they backed toward the ship. The commander roared in fury. "You cannot escape. We will follow you to the edge of the universe." Dominic's eyes met Nerissa's, a silent communication passing between them. Through their connection, they had formed a plan, desperate, dangerous, but possibly their only chance. "You're right," Dominic called back. "So we're not going to the edge of the universe." He smiled grimly. "We're going beyond it." They made it inside the horizon as the remaining Vex forces regrouped. Dominic launched the ship, breaking atmosphere as enemy vessels gave chase. But instead of fleeing, he set course directly for the gas giant's most violent storm system. "Commander, that course leads to a quantum anomaly within the storm," KIRA warned. "Sensors indicate a potential fold in space-time." "Exactly," Dominic replied, his hand still linked with Nerissa's. "Are you ready?" She nodded, her free hand pressed against the ship's control panel. Together. As they plunged into the storm, Nerissa channeled her energy into the ship's systems. The Horizont's hull began to glow with the same iridescent light as her skin. Behind them, the Vex ships followed, unable to understand what they were attempting. Now, Dominic shouted as they reached the heart of the anomaly. Nerissa released a pulse of energy that resonated with the quantum disturbance. Space itself seemed to ripple around them. The view screen filled with impossible colors as reality stretched and folded. The Vex ships, caught in the wake of their passage, but without Nerissa's protection, broke apart under forces no material could withstand. When the turbulence subsided, the view screen showed unfamiliar stars, a region of space uncharted by any known civilization. "Where are we?" Dominic whispered. Nerissa's tendrils swayed gently as she gazed at the unknown constellations, beyond known space, where no one, not the Vex, not your people, has ever ventured. She turned to him, her galaxy-filled eyes shining. "We can never go back. The passage has closed behind us." Dominic pulled her into his arms, feeling her light pulse in harmony with his heartbeat. "I don't need to go back. Everything I want is right here." As the Horizont drifted into the uncharted cosmos, they sealed their commitment with a kiss that sparkled with shared energy. They were more than human and Astrian now. They were something entirely new, forging their path among stars that had never been witnessed by any eyes but their own. In the vast unknown that stretched before them, one thing remained certain. They would face it together, their love a beacon that would light even the darkest corners of the universe. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.